we're going to have our invocation and then our pledge. Our invocation will be led by Pastor Alan Folsom from Burnt Hickory Baptist Church, and that will be followed with the pledge from firefighter Seth Bice, Station 10. So thank you, gentlemen, and for those willing and able, please stand with me for prayer, for invocation.
Thank you. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight with hearts of gratitude for the opportunity to gather together for the freedom to work together and for the betterment of our community. We thank you for these leaders who have been entrusted with the responsibility to govern Cobb County. And so tonight we ask for your wisdom to guide their decisions and your discernment to lead them in justice and in fairness. May they always act with integrity, compassion, seeking the welfare of all citizens. Father, we pray that you grant them unity and a spirit of cooperation as they navigate the complexities of governance. And Lord, we pray also for their families, asking for your protection and peace over them. Bless the work of their hands, and may all they do bring honor to you. We're reminded, as your word says in Micah 6:8, that you call us to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with you, our God. May this be their guide today and in all days to come. Finally, Father, we ask for your continued blessing over this community. Father, pray that you heal the divisions, strengthen our unity, and help us to work together for the good of all. And Father, we pray that Cobb County may be a place where your righteousness and peace abounds. In the name of Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Wonderful. So we will move right along. Thank you so much for those words, too, and the pledge. Moving right into our presentations. And first up, one moment. First up, we've got Commissioner Sheffield. Oh, wait, no, withdrawn. I see that now. Okay. Then we'll move right into the second one. So those that are here with the presentation for a check for the receiving the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Grant with Aaron AI Corporation, please come up to the front.
All right. So just want to say these are always super exciting. I'm so glad they're back in the county. But I'm going to go ahead and read some notes. Yeah. So on September 24th, 2024, the Board of Commissioners approved an entrepreneurship grant in the amount of $10,000 for Aaron AI Corporation located in District 2. Would you be interested in acknowledging, is this? Just that part? Yes, ma'am. You good with that part? All right, let's go on. Aaron is at the forefront of revolutionizing human capital management with its advanced ERP analytics. The core innovation of Aaron lies in its sophisticated use of AI to conduct thorough analyses and evaluations of job descriptions. Aaron doesn't just understand roles, it appreciates their essential value and their crucial role in achieving the company's strategic objectives. Aaron's unique strength lies in its comprehensive approach. By integrating its deep insights and vast data resources, Aaron accurately identifies the necessary knowledge, competencies, and incentives to promote behaviors that align with the company's overall strategic vision. This integration of job valuation and market data enables organizations to make well-informed, data-driven decisions, enhancing their competitive position and developing effective human capital strategies. And these are just some points to include as well, a 20-year Cobb County resident, graduate of Lassiter High School, over 10 years of experience in sales, data analytics, and human capital consulting, and operates out of the Hatchbridge Incubator. So fantastic. Shout out to KSU. So congratulations. Would you like to say some words?
Well, I want to say thank you for this money and opportunity to represent Cobb County and bringing business to Cobb County. A lot of us startup people work out of Atlanta and Buckhead, and over the past 20 years, Cobb County has changed a lot. And with the Braves moving down here and like the brustering, like when I pulled in downtown Marietta, I could just smell the sushi and things of that sort. Downtown Marietta, Cobb County in general, is the place to be.
We are honored to support small businesses and entrepreneurs in Cobb County, and I'd like to thank the Development Authority of Cobb County for funding this grant for us and for giving us the opportunity to recognize businesses and entrepreneurs here in the county. And thank you again, Jeremy, for choosing Cobb to locate your business, and I wish you all the best, especially at the Hatchbridge Incubator. It was a great partner of ours. Thank you.
Vice Chair.
Okay. I am going to pull item number 1 for the clerk. This is a presentation. The recipient fell ill, so we're going to pull this from tonight's agenda. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for that, too. All right. The next presentation comes from Commissioner Gambrell's office related to the Great Pumpkin Contest. Anyone related to Safe Path in this presentation, please come up.
And before we get to this, we're going to call up our winners who participated in this event. And this year's winning Halloween design was Cobb Public Library's Story Time with the Bride of Frankenstein. And in second place is Cobb Parks with their Wicked design. I know it's not as big as the pickleball trophy, but I want to thank you to all the county participants and departments that submitted pumpkins to help us raise a total of $981 for Safe Paths Children Advocacy. We've done this now for 6 years to help benefit Safe Path, and I know I enjoy it, and I think our departments enjoy joining in on their creativity and sharing that. Would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I'm Hannah. I'm with Safe Path, and we deal with all the intervention, investigation, prosecution, prevention, and treatment of childhood physical abuse, sexual abuse, children who've witnessed homicide, and childhood sex trafficking all throughout Cobb County, Georgia. So any effort to spread awareness while also having fun with such a difficult subject definitely helps our cause, helps our mission. All this money goes directly to the children, and I can't believe it's been 6 years now when you said that. And my favorite thing is always seeing all the pumpkins. When Ryan finally sends me the email, I'm like, oh, who's doing it? So thank you guys so much. Would you like to say something? Okay, yeah, thank you.
Can I get one with you and Pumpkin Winner? Thank you.
All right. Okay. Awesome. All right, and then our fourth presentation we will hold until after the public hearing, so that's just for everybody to know. Going into our public hearing, so this is, let's see, there we go, Jessica. Holding till later. I just did. Yes. Okay, did everyone hear? We are holding the fourth presentation for after the public hearing. All right, and now we are moving into our public hearing. Certainly, Jessica has the floor, and then I'll open up the public hearing with Bill. Go ahead.
All right, very good. Jessica Gwynn, Cobb County Community Development Agency Director, and thank you, Commissioner Richardson. This is the second public hearing for the code amendment package. This is the second of two public hearings. As you'll recall, we had a public hearing last week on the 12th. That was public hearing number 1. We also had a public hearing November 5th for the items that were in Chapter 134 of the zoning ordinance. So tonight, I'm just going to make a brief presentation hitting highlights of the things that have changed since public hearing number 1, and there were a number of changes. In your packet tonight, you have the latest and greatest drafts of the code amendments, as well as a little table that kind of points out what the changes are, so that way hopefully it was easier for you to find those changes. So I'll just hit the highlights of those changes this evening, and then after that presentation, of course, we'll have our opportunity for questions. We'd ask you, as the vice chair this evening, to open the public hearing, and then you all will have the opportunity to vote on the code amendments. So starting with Chapter 2, this is in Part 1, Chapter 2, Administration. This pertains to the film permit application, and the film permit application process, of course, goes through the Economic Development Department. There have been no changes to this section from the first public hearing, so again, this just speaks to how the film permits are applied for and issued. Chapter 6, minor change in the alcoholic beverages chapter. Again, just bringing our language into consistency with state law pertaining to the criteria for the information that has to be reviewed if there's an appeal filed to a Board of Commissioners decision pertaining to alcohol suspension, revocation of those licenses. No changes since the first public hearing to that one. Chapter 18, the building regulations. This is the change to the plumbing code that we're doing in accordance with the requirements of the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District. There have been no changes to this one since the first public hearing. Chapter 50, Environment, we have a couple of things here. We had several changes in this section that were, again, just bringing our code in line with the model ordinance for erosion and sediment control and that model ordinance, and this is something that's being done per the Environmental Protection Division. Of course, they're the ones who ensure that we are staying up to par with how we're reviewing erosion and sediment control, how we're issuing land disturbance permits and those sorts of things, and helping to maintain our status as a local issuing authority. So that's very important. Again, no changes to that since the first public hearing. Chapter 78, there were a couple things that we did here in Chapter 78. The first piece of the changes pertain to the door-to-door salesperson's permit. This just brings all of the responsibility for issuance of those permits into the police department, whereas to this point it's sort of been a shared process between the business license division and the police department. It just makes a lot of sense to streamline that process and that it would be entirely through the police department. No changes to this section since the first public hearing. Then we get into some changes specific to health spas. As you'll recall, the Board of Commissioners enacted a moratorium for health spas a few months ago to give us the opportunity to look at our health spa regulations and see what steps we can take looking at best practices. The Business License Division as well as the Police Department have had the opportunities to participate in a number of trainings and to learn more about the issues that are, and this is not specific to Cobb County, this is an issue throughout the state and throughout the nation, where often these health spas or massage parlors are being, they're vehicles for sex trafficking, for human trafficking, and so there were some things that we wanted to do to our code in order to help hopefully circumvent some of that. So there have been a few changes made to this. Again, since the first draft was put out, our staff and the police department actually was able to attend and participate in even more training. The Georgia Attorney General has been very active in this space also, and so they've provided a lot of good insight too. So we have a couple of things that we've added into this to, again, just beef this up a little bit. So the first changes that have been made since the first public hearing, and these are outlined on the sheet that you have, the cover sheet. This is in the definitions section. So we've added in there into the definition for a licensee that the licensee must be a resident of the state of Georgia, and the licensee must work on site a minimum of 1 day per week. So the licensee, of course, being the person who holds the license for that massage establishment. We've also added into that with the definition of massage therapy or massage, that would be a service provided by, we've added the language, by a state licensed massage therapist. Again, just to clarify that those are the only people authorized to perform those services here in Cobb County. No changes to these sections that speak to inspections, the listing of employees to be filed with counties, hours of operation, and also prohibited contact, which again speaks to requiring that all persons providing those services here in Cobb County, even if it's just a foot massage, would have to be state licensed massage therapist. We get into application requirements, location and premises requirements. The thing that we've changed, the only thing that we've changed to this section, this is 78-293 since the first public hearing, is that we've added in here, and again, this is a best practice that we've incorporated, is requiring employees to not just be fully clothed, but that they be fully clothed in scrub or scrub-like clothing at all times. Again, that this is a service that's more similar to perhaps some other personal care services or medical care services, that they should be appropriately dressed to provide those services. So that's been included. No changes to, actually we did in section 78-294, we have added some additions to the grounds for denial of the license. So I'll read those out. There were actually 3 additions that were made. Again, just bringing our code more in line, even more in line with best practices. The first being that the applicant has, if the applicant has violated any law, regulation, or ordinance related to such business within a 5-year period, immediately preceding the date of application, that would be grounds for denial of a massage license in Cobb County. It also grounds for denial if the applicant has had any license issued under the police powers of any county, state, municipality, or other governmental entity previously suspended or revoked. So that would be grounds for us to consider denying that license here in Cobb County. And also if the applicant has demonstrated a lack of knowledge of the county ordinances and federal and state law regulating the business. So again, and that's something that often comes up in the hearings is whether or not they understand the county code pertaining to these establishments. So we've incorporated that also. So those are the only things in Chapter 78 that have changed since the first public hearing. Moving on to 110, this is the subdivisions chapter. There have been no changes to this. 110-1 just removes the language regarding the variance for public road frontage. It currently says in there that those variances are heard by the Board of Zoning Appeals. As you know, those actually come to the Board of Commissioners as an other business item as a special exception. So just removing that language to make it reflect our current practice. 110-25, adding the requirement for required conservation easements and or mandatory covenants protecting open space conservation areas to be recorded prior to final plat approval. No changes to that, but again, that's really going to help us to ensure that as those things are required, that we're making that happen, where they're making sure those have been properly recorded prior to the final plat being approved. 122, this is a number of amendments from the Water Department. There have been no changes to these since the first public hearing. And then 134, and of course, this is where the bulk of our changes since the first public hearing have taken place. So I'll walk through those. As you'll see, if you printed section 134, you'll see it's considerably thinner than it probably was the first time you printed it. In the definitions section, 134-1, the only definition that is being amended at this point, because the others were withdrawn, is the definition for impervious surface. So we're adding to that the language that states that calculations for the percentage of impervious surface shall be made on an individual lot-by-lot basis, not in the aggregate for a community of lots or a subdivision. So again, reflecting our practice, how we actually do things, so that way it's codified and it's cleared. Since the first public hearing, the things that have been taken out is we have taken out the definition of accessory dwelling unit, all of the changes that were proposed to the single-family dwelling unit definition, which would include the number of vehicles, the number of unrelated adults, and also we took out the changes that were being proposed to the definition of family. So all of those have been withdrawn at the direction of the Board of Commissioners after the first public hearing. So the only thing that you'll see in your current package now is just the impervious surface definition, and all of those will remain as they are in the current code. Sections 134 through 93 through 199, as you'll recall, these were the individual zoning districts where we had in there the requirement that if there is an accessory structure that has habitable space, it's to be connected by a fully enclosed, heated and cooled space, no more than 25 feet. If the ADU proposal had moved forward, the proposal was to remove that subsection, that requirement from the single family districts. Since that is not moving forward, we have removed those amendments, so that will stay as currently as stated, so that will still be a requirement. 134-37, we have included in here the amendment that was proposed to require the landscape screening buffer for clubs and lodges to be increased from 35 to 50 feet. That is still in there. This is also the section where we had the addition of the standards for accessory dwelling units to be reviewed as a special land use permit. At the direction of the board, those were withdrawn, and that's also been taken out of the package, so that is not moving forward at this time. 134-94, no changes here. This again comes back to making sure that the code reflects current practice. Years ago, the Board of Commissioners began reviewing variances for road frontage and lot size reduction rather than that going to BZA. That's still listed among the powers of the BZA in the code, but it's not something that is the current practice, so we're still removing that. 134-123, again, this just adds in here that one of the options for the Planning Commission in making recommendation on zoning cases is that they can recommend deletion to an alternative zoning district. This is something that they do sometimes, and so just making sure that that's properly reflected in the code. Nothing has changed to that since the last public hearing. 134-266, the supplemental regulations pertaining to electric vehicle charging stations, and as you'll recall, this is where we have incorporated into the code that we're going to treat multifamily residential uses more like commercial with regard to how many electric vehicle charging stations they can have. Nothing has changed from the first public hearing there. And then 134-271, special exceptions. This speaks to increasing the landscape screening buffer for houses of worship from 35 to 50 feet for properties abutting residential property lines. Nothing has changed to that since the last public hearing. And then the final section for amendment is Part 2, Chapter 2. Again, no changes to this. This section speaks to the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority. As you'll recall, House Bill 1330 changed the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority to the Mableton Redevelopment Authority, or sorry, Mableton Development Authority. That entire area is now within the city of Mableton. And then, of course, changed the appointment powers for that board from the Cobb County Board of Commissioners having appointees to 5 members being appointed by the city of Mableton, their city council, and 2 members by the Cobb delegation. So all that we're doing here is just taking that entire section out of our code because the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority essentially no longer exists. It is now the Mableton Development Authority and wholly within the jurisdiction of the city of Mableton. So that's my presentation. I'm glad to answer any questions. Of course, we would ask that the vice chair open the public hearing, and then after that, and following any questions and discussion, you all, of course, will have the opportunity to vote on the code amendments this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Certainly want to provide an opportunity for the commissioners if there are any clarifying questions on the presentation before I open up the public hearing. Okay, well, I will formally open up the public hearing, and if our county attorney can just provide those remarks, those guideline remarks before we.
Sure. The public hearing is for an unlimited number of speakers. You're allowed to speak for 3 minutes each. Your topic needs to be regarding the code amendments that's being presented. And just a reminder, there is a timer on the podium to keep track of your time. You can declare it open, and it's first come, first serve.
Thank you. Come right on up, and please state your name when you hit the podium.
Hi. Most of y'all know me. I'm Amy Barnes. Chapter 78. Whew, I can actually see that attracting litigation. I see a serious problem with turning this over to the police department, because if the police are to come in and inspect, then it shall be and should be treated the same as a criminal investigation and criminal search due to the fact that the police can immediately arrest for perceived violations of law. The 5-year ban on licenses for people post-conviction flies in the face of sentencing reform efforts. And with regards to the moral turpitude crime, if you look at how any plea deal is done in criminal court, let's say somebody gets stupid and they get in a fight, well, 9 times out of 9 times, their public defender is going to offer disorderly conduct as something to agree to plead guilty to. That is a crime of moral turpitude, if my understanding of the law is correct. So this 5-year post-conviction ban on licensing could block somebody from escalating their life into a higher level through a better paying job doing massage therapy. Massage therapy is one of those jobs that allows people to independently get more money out of their workday. It is a higher paying job. We don't need to ban people for 5 years after the day they were stupid. It's not right, and I can see that being a problem. Now, one of my big problems here is we have the requirement to take down people's phone numbers, as well as the cost and type of treatment. I can't go to the hospital and ask what type of treatment my mom got because, hey, that's covered by HIPAA. Well, massage therapy is medical in nature for many of us. So it should not be allowed for anyone to come in and see that I've had a leg massage because I have anemia and I'm having trouble walking. That's my private business. That's my medical business. It should not be available to the county to come inspect and see what treatments I have had. The other thing is, I work in a number of places, and I bring my hairbrush at work. Grooming supplies, come on, don't ban that. A lot of people bring grooming supplies and lunches.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Okay, hello, my name is Kayla. I just wanted to speak and voice my disappointment about the ADU ordinance or the proposal being removed from the ordinance. I grew up here in Cobb, graduated college in 2022, and I'm now 2 years into my career as an architect. And I believe that ADUs could be a solution for a lot of people and families in Cobb. Sorry. As a young person, I think about what will happen when my parents age, and unfortunately not having as many options as I would like. For a lot of people, there are only really two options. Are you going to squeeze aging parents who have diminishing independence into, say, a starter home with, hopefully a future husband and children, or potentially placing them in an assisted living facility? I would love to have another option besides those two. The generation considered the baby boomers are aging, as we all are, and are set to be like the largest population of elderly people. And so there is a true concern about where do we want these folks to live, and how many options do we want people to have as they grow and have declined independence. Secondly, looking at my present, the housing crisis is definitely real for my generation, as it is for many other people. Rent prices are astronomically high. Milestones like marriage and home ownership are delayed because, statistically delayed because, frankly, it's just not as affordable as it was for past generations. Unfortunately, I read in an article that someone said that there will always be poor people in regard to the ADU ordinance. And I'm not sure if they were referring to young professionals like me or my peer groups, or people who I graduated who are starting careers as teachers or starting off in the law industry like as a paralegal or whatnot. But I do want to reiterate that the housing crisis and this current situation affects us all, regardless of whether or not you deem somebody has a promising career trajectory or whatnot. I want to say that your children and your grandchildren who are my age or soon to be my age would greatly appreciate it if you told them that they have another option besides the very limited options we have now. In the 50s and 60s, the post-war generation radically transformed Cobb County from farmlands and a rural landscape to the suburban landscape that we have today. And they did that because those were the changes that their generation needed. Why should we deny my generation the same opportunity to make the changes that we need? Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Bruce Bowles. I've been a county resident for 29 years, taxpaying member of the community, and I'm here also to speak about ADUs, accessory dwelling units. First, I'm going to tell you, I'm against it. I don't see it being a resolution to the housing crisis. It has been used in scenarios where most of the population is 50 to 80% more liberal than this county, in my opinion. And I believe supply and demand will continue to be a problem in terms of the cost of housing for the next one or more generations, because the country and the states are not solving the housing crisis. A county is not going to solve it on its own inside of a county. It's just not possible. And I'd rather see national or state level resolution to a housing crisis problem than a county specific, okay? I really don't believe ADUs are gonna do the county any good with the housing crisis. That's my opinion. I've done some research. I don't see anywhere where it's been valuable to the community as a whole. I've looked at other state case studies. Maybe y'all can show me some places where it has worked. But I think that there needs to be a different resolution to the housing crisis. Thank you.
Hi, Sam Foster. I come to these meetings quite often, not as often as the city meetings because these meetings get a little bit chaotic sometimes. But constantly hear people come here talking about they don't want apartments, they don't want townhomes. In some cases, they don't want single-family housing. So it's a lot of scenarios people coming here are talking about what they don't want. A lot of scenarios of them talking about different types of housing that they don't want, and they also don't want other people to build certain types of housing anywhere near them. So we're running into a scenario where we do have this housing crisis, like two people have mentioned before me, and we're not able to do anything about it because people keep coming and saying they don't want to solve the issue. So we see housing prices go up. I want to buy a home, I can't. We see housing prices go up, we see homeless rates go up, and the solution is right in front of us, and we refuse to do it. So specifically with the ADU situation, it's not a solution, but it is a step in the right direction. There is no one solution to the housing crisis. We can't just go and build a high-rise in the middle of downtown and then homelessness goes away and we all live happy ever after. But there are steps that we can take that will be an investment for future generations so the problem that they're dealing with are not as extreme as the problem that we have today. We need to build single-family housing. We need to build townhomes. We need to build different types of housing stock, and we can't just build one type of housing. ADUs in particular are not a radical change. It is actually the most simple change and non-noticeable change you can make to an existing neighborhood, and it's kind of something that just helps along with the process of dealing with the housing crisis. Portland, Oregon, for example, a city that a lot of people in this room probably would consider not a nice place. They legalized ADUs, and it only accounts for 1% of all of the single-family lots. There's only 1% of single-family lots have ADUs on them. And in Decatur, less than 50 ADUs were built between 2015 and 2020 when they legalized them. So the idea that it's going to bring extreme density to an existing neighborhood is it just doesn't happen in reality. It just doesn't happen. So I hope it gets brought back at some point. Maybe not, but it's disappointing to see people come here and say, I don't want this type of housing, which is fine, you don't have to live there, nobody's forcing you, but when somebody else gets the opportunity, when the government's saying, we're going to step out and we're going to allow you to do this on your property, we have people coming and saying, I don't want my neighbor to do that, I don't want you to build anything anywhere near me, even in the city, even if I don't even live in your neighborhood, I don't want you to do that. Even if I have an HOA protecting my neighborhood, I don't want your neighborhood having that opportunity. Yeah, I hope it comes back at some point. Thank you.
And just so that everybody knows, we were just verifying, I do know that there are still opinions on ADUs. It was commented earlier because it's been removed, whether or not it could still be talked about during the public hearing, and it is because it was on the original advertisement, so just making sure that that's clear for everybody as well. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Mariette Cooper. I have a bazillion reasons for being against the idea of ADUs, the way that is being thought of right now. Currently, adding to an existing home as part of that home is totally okay. So it's a form of ADU, but the way that it was proposed last week and then withdrawn, that I'm totally against that for a million reasons. I recommend that this is a big issue. It should not be rushed through. We should have a year where all sides get to bring forth their pros and their cons. Everybody has a chance to debate. We have so much brain power within the government and outside the government among us, the citizens. There's lots of brain power, there's lots of experience power. We need to take a year and use that to create zoning codes and do's and don'ts that do not attack existing neighborhoods, existing residential single-family neighborhoods, people who are currently buying or have already purchased. Yeah, so I firmly recommend and suggest that. Also, as this gets discussed, debated, pros and cons, et cetera, relaxing of rules and protections and the protections for barriers and the flora and the fauna, that should not be relaxed. Cobb County we love Cobb County, the green spaces, the quality of life, the quality of education. We should not relax things that have made us where we're at. That's like, I've said it a million times, killing the goose that laid the golden egg. Another thing, who's going to enforce? Like, it means nothing. Y'all's work, nobody's work, it means nothing if there's not some kind of a squad or a department or something that has teeth.
Ma'am, your time's up. Your time's up.
Okay.
My name is Leslie Davis. I was just going to speak on the 131.1 impervious surfaces. And I understand what this is about. This is about the stormwater tax. So again, I will say, just as I did before, I would like to suggest that before you worry about defining impervious surfaces and anything else to do with impervious surfaces, that you work on getting rid of the transfer of the water funds to the general fund. I would say that's number one. Then let's talk about impervious surfaces. But until that's done, that's pointless.
Hello, Commissioners. Christine Rosman. I am actually going to read something that a concerned citizen actually already sent you all today, and which is there is absolutely no need for the proposed changes to code. Once again, the county is rushing through outrageous, dangerous changes that are a threat to our private property rights and our pocketbooks. The public had almost no time to review the proposed changes and no participation in our county government plans. But I think I know who was involved in that, but that's just my idea. Anyway, this is outrageous. There's not enough room to tell you all the things wrong with this. For one thing, there are no clear definitions and limitations. These proposed changes will be a future roadmap to pull the rug out from under every homeowner and taxpayer. Do you really think that this is even professional? The thing is that all these newfangled ideas that you come up with, not you, but that come up, all you have to do, and I keep repeating this, is look at World Economic Forum and see what they think about it, and then it's exactly what gets proposed. Like you look at the World Economic Forum and stormwater runoff. You look, World Economic Forum, the low-flow toilets, World Economic Forum, climate change. So I just did that little search, and it said, I just said, low-flow toilets, World Economic Forum, why they need them? It's climate change. And then we spend tens of millions of dollars with Accenture and Deloitte to tell us how much we need all this stuff. And Accenture and Deloitte are at Davos every year. Accenture and Deloitte are partners with World Economic Forum. So all these things that people are like, why do we need this? Why do we have to look like Fulton and DeKalb? Why are we trying to emulate what they do? Why doesn't Fulton and DeKalb want to be like we are? Well, because you can't grow government when you actually listen to the people. That's why. So all this like mushrooming of government and more regulations and more codes, it's just to blow everything up with the government and make it, just keep feeding it. It's like a little fertilizer, and we're not into that. Thank you.
Betty Hayden, 23-year resident of Cobb County and homeowner. Accessory dwelling units, referred to as the ADU's proposal, is currently being tabled to gather more information. So why wasn't a thorough investigation done before this ADU concept was proposed? What is in this? What's in this for the homeowner except higher taxes, street parking issues, traffic issues, overcrowding of schools, added concerns for fire department, police? Also, the abuse of this ADU concept would create rentals to transients, making neighborhoods less safe for our children. This continued push by most of the Cobb BOC to turn Cobb County into a city of East Cobb was a concept citizens have already voted down by a majority of 85%. Cobb County cityhood, we voted no. ADUs, we say no. MSPLOS, 30-year taxes, no. Mass transit in Cobb County, no. Yet, this board pursues solutions which do not actually benefit our county. Take the areas of Cobb County which are not doing well and work directly with the people in those areas and teach them how to be successful. Improve their schools, repair their roads, create new jobs for them within their communities, and assist them where they are. Help them be successful and to have skin in the game, to create a thriving community that they can be proud of. Handouts and increased taxes don't change a community for the better. The majority of this board does not hear the cry of its citizens in both the poorer and the affluent areas. Big government, more taxes, and meaningless handouts are not the solution. The Cobb Planning Board voted 5-0 to recommend denying the creation of accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, and the majority of the residents don't want them either. Yet, the response of Commissioner Cupid is that she's willing to table it and gather more information. The information which really needs to be gathered is your wasteful spending and your insistence on recreating Cobb County into a slush fund for projects that don't work. Identify real needs, start working with the community, and then we'll happily work with you. Thank you.
Commissioners, my name is Lisa Taylor, and I've lived in Cobb County in District 3 for 34 years. I spoke last week, and I want to elaborate on my statement from then. I was asking you last week, please not add more people to the homes, like one family plus 2 people or 3 unrelated people. First, let me tell you that Code is one of the most efficient and responsive departments that I've dealt with in all of Cobb government. But their hands are tied when it comes to consequences for Code violations. Once they ask for a voluntary occupancy statement and none is received, then they count cars and closed most cases. So why can't the officers write down tag information? Why can't they demand proof of who is living in a home? Why can't they follow up with corporate owners and other landlords and demand information? As part of our HOA, we have copies of leases and certainly know from everyday living situations information that Code could use, but we can't really seem to get it to them. We have one landlord in our neighborhood running a boarding house straight up. He has at least two others near us in Cobb. The rooms rent for $800 to $1,000 per room per month. He's had this home in Parkwood for 4 years and can't seem to get caught. We're waiting on an EMI for 2 months now, but he will pass the car count and the case will be closed. Please tell me how we can get him out of Parkwood. As of this afternoon, he is advertising 12 rooms on Facebook Marketplace in at least 3 or probably 4 rooming houses. Which brings me to the 7 factually known violators in Parkwood that Code is working diligently on after I scheduled a meeting with Elisa Foston, which is what it took for Code to delve deeper into these issues. These people will never bring a LUP before you. You don't know what you don't know. These houses, you see the LUPs that come before you, and many have merit. John Peterson said that 82% of the ones that come before you for more people or more cars, you approve that. But you don't see the ones that never come before you. It's these illegal houses that you will never see that the problems for us. We had 1 less than genuine LUP this past year, and 7, again, as I said, that you'll never see. Imagine how many that are out there that you'll never know about. Can we please solve these situations before we move on? Can you please, if you make an ordinance, please make a way to enforce it or impose more strict penalties and consequences? I understand that you may consider a resident task force as you discuss these amendment changes going forward in addition to—
Ma'am, your time's up. Your time's up.
Is there anyone else that would like to provide commentary during our public hearing? Okay.
Hillwright, I have comments on, I guess, different parts of the code. First is 18-257. Why does a regional commission get to tell us how fast the water comes out of our fixtures in our homes? You know, I mean, I lived in Europe where they had these kind of things, and I tell you, I had to sit there in the shower and spin around trying to get enough water on me to take a shower. And, you want to mop the floor, fill up the bucket. You like sit there and have a cup of coffee waiting for the bucket to fill up and all. I mean, I couldn't wait to get back to Cobb County and get away from these kinds of things. And now you want to bring it here. Okay, 110.5, plat approval section, you're striking minimum lot size and easement. Okay, so that's a right protection that the citizens of Cobb County have. And I understand that this applies to the Board of Zoning Approvals, and you're saying that, well, they don't do that. But in the future, if they were to do that, then this would be removed. And why change it if it doesn't even apply? Why remove a protection? 134.1, impervious surfaces. I'm sorry, but I believe that this is just moving us toward the stormwater utility fee, and that we don't need to, we just don't need to change that until we have a conversation and with everyone. Just 134.4 strikes posting notices and mailing out notices to, and again, it's the same thing is, this is a protection that Cobb citizens have. Why remove it? I understand that right now that other business goes to the Board of Commissioners, but in the future, if it were to go back to the Plan Commission and all, that's a protection we would not have in our code. So I don't think that should be removed and all. And I think that what we should be looking at is that these things are rights and protections that citizens have, not just arbitrary things that people want or don't want. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Lori Munn, and I did not know I'd be able to speak, so I'm not prepared, but I'll try. Mine is about ADUs. Was born at Kennestone, lived here all my life. So we recently, me, my husband, my daughter, and her husband recently bought a home in Marietta. It has a detached garage with an apartment. And the plan was and when we bought the home, this is my problem with everything, is that we had no idea that this would even be an issue. We were not told anything when we bought the house, but now, of course, somebody reported us, so code came and said we can't live in the garage apartment because it's detached. But I'm just hoping that we can look at this again. Maybe it can be on an individual basis or exceptions or grandfathered in or something. I do agree with a lot of the people that don't want them, but some of us need it. So we're in a situation where we need it. And anyway, I just hope you'll think about it some more. Maybe on an individual basis or something to that effect. Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to participate? Okay.
Hi, I'm Cindy Peterson, nearly a 40-year resident in Parkwood Commons. Mine's very short. It's on the number of related and non-related people living in a home. God, I forgot I colored my hair. I don't color my hair. Excuse me. I didn't recognize myself. I apologize. I can't color my hair anymore, so I'm surprised when I see myself white hair. Oh, my God. Anyway, it's about related and unrelated. This scares us. We're by KSU. We had lots of kids moving in, and, you know, we understand their predicament, but we're also trying to stay single family. We're worried that the definition of two families, we understand that two unrelated people, and that's okay, but they eventually become just roommates. And if we allow their children and their grandchildren to come in, it blurs. It just blurs the issue. Then we've got 6 adults and a bunch of kids in one home. Those kids are going to grow to be teenagers. They're going to want vehicles. They're going to it's too much. It's a rooming house. It's what it becomes. And that's it, and I apologize.
All right.
certainly a comedic break. Anybody else that wants to provide commentary or insight? All right, well, I am going to close our public hearing. Oh,
Can we provide commentary on an additional subject?
only what's in the code.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yes, if public comment is an option for anyone that wants to provide commentary on any other topic, and the sign-in sheet is over there. Okay. And just making sure everyone is aware that that is an option. There are 10 speakers available at the top and 10 speakers at the end of the meeting. All right, our public hearing is closed now, and I will open up to the other commissioners for any questions, and we can go down the line, and then anything, I'll go last. So Commissioner Gambrill, if you would like to jump in.
Jessica, just if we could clarify why the road frontage reduction was changed in code. If you could clarify that for the public, please.
Right, so the Board of Commissioners a number of years ago, previously the road frontage reduction as well as the lot size reduction were items that were heard as variances by the Board of Zoning Appeals. Several years ago, before my time, before probably most of your time also here on the board of Commissioners made a decision that that would be a special exception that would be heard by the Board of Commissioners as another business item. So that is no longer one of the powers of the Board of Zoning Appeals. They no longer hear that at all. So that's in our code is something that is inaccurate and does not reflect the actual practice. It's actually inconsistent with the other section of our code that says the Board of Commissioners hears those. And to the question regarding the posting and the notice, those items, those other business items are posted and noticed and letters sent out just as other zoning items are.
All right, going down the line, Commissioner Burrow.
Thank you, Jessica. But to take that further, because I was here when it was changed.
I thought you might be.
I've been here too long. If it ever went back to the BZA as a variance rather than other business, the code would have to be changed back.
Yes, ma'am.
Because there'll always be a notice, regardless of who hears it or where it goes.
Yes,
As with regard to the impervious surface, I wouldn't be a sponsor if it had anything to do with the stormwater utility fee. That is, right now, the way the code is worded, and I know Mr. Wright brought this up, the way the code is worded, a developer can come in with the subdivision, a plat for however many homes, and do an average of the impervious for the whole subdivision. There could be 60 lots. And if you average 35%, you could have some lots that are 50% and some that are 20%, but your average is 35. This makes it so that the maximum on each single lot cannot go over 35%. So we're clarifying that in the code because it's better to do it that way to make sure they don't go over the 35% impervious for R20. Now, for commercial, it's higher, but this is just for residential lots. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm done.
Commissioner Shuffleton.
No, I wasn't sure if you were done. Jessica, there was a reference earlier with respect to ADUs in other parts of the country or in the metropolitan area. During your research to present this to the board, you were able to obtain information from, I believe, Forsyth County to get an understanding of how things are working there. Would you mind just sharing that with us?
Well, and there are a number of counties in the metro area and beyond, and also cities, like for instance, the city of Marietta has a process for consideration of accessory dwelling units. Forsyth County utilizes a model similar to what we had proposed, whereby to have a detached accessory dwelling unit, you would have to request they call it a conditional use permit there. Here's a special land use permit. So that was what had been proposed, was that each request would have to come to the Board of Commissioners, first to the Planning Commissioner, then to the Board of Commissioners for considerations of special land use permit. There are a number of jurisdictions at this point that are looking at moving to an ADU by right, which is different, where basically if you have a single family lot, you'd be able to do it if you met all the requirements, but that's not what was being proposed.
Okay. And also, just based on some of the comments that we heard tonight and at previous meetings, there seems to be this thought, and I need for you to provide clarification, particularly to those who are hearing this for the first time tonight, that the county will force people to do this. I get the feeling that the thought is,
Hold on, this is, okay, yeah, thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner.
if you can just shed a little light on the process of this, because again, it just seems, based again on the comments, whether said or implied, the thought is people are being forced to have these units on their property when it's well within their right, just like any other zoning category, in which, by the way, this does exist now. That the county is not forcing anyone to do anything. And if a person opts to exercise this, if we get to the point of adopting this later, that is that person's right to do. It's not something that the county is imposing. I heard comments such as, hand up and, just do a better job at taking care of yourself and all of these other comments, but this is not what that is about. And I just want you to share that for those that may be watching or joining us for the first time.
Well, with any special land use permit, and we have another example of a special land use permit that is still in the amendment package, and that of course being non-commercial clubs and lodges. That's also something that's available as a special land use permit. So for any special land use permit, whatever it is, that would be a permit that would be requested by the property owner. And then, the property owner would have to sign off acknowledging that we're requesting the special land use permit. Then, of course, it would go to the Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners for consideration after 2 public hearings. So yes, it would absolutely, any special land use permit would always be something that would come at the request of the property owner.
Okay. And do we have in the code currently a provision that speaks to this particular, I guess, zoning category and having an accessory dwelling unit on a single-family residential parcel?
Under our current code, as I shared earlier, if someone were to have an accessory structure, so a structure besides just the primary house on the lot, if someone was to have an accessory structure that was going to have habitable space, the only way to do that under our current code would be if it were to be connected by a heated and cooled enclosed hallway no more than 25 feet from the primary structure or the main house. So if you were going to have habitable space, and if you wanted to do that now, that's something that you could do by coming in, pulling the permits, as long as you meet all the requirements regarding impervious surface and setbacks and what have you. Someone could do that today if they wanted to be able to have that as a living space. It would have to be connected.
Mm-hmm. So this concept currently exists in our code?
The difference being here, what was previously proposed and withdrawn by the board was that there would be an opportunity, which does not currently exist, for homeowners to request through the special land use permit process to have a detached accessory dwelling unit or a detached accessory structure with habitable space versus it actually being connected.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. I have several things that definitely came up and certainly want to also ask about. First of which, though, since ADUs are pretty popular as a discussion, I do just want to share, I know I shared my opinions on it during the last public hearing, that I did feel that it needed some more conversation because it is a policy change and having those roundtables would be important. But that being said, my understanding is what was being proposed, because I think it's always important for everyone to be on the same page. What was being proposed provided a requirement to go through the zoning process so that there would be transparency on parcels that we're looking to add these pieces, which would allow for the same kind of public input, just like with any other zoning application. And then secondly, that let's say it's approved, it still has to meet the standards of what that zoning was for that parcel. If it's a single-family home, for instance, it still has to have the same buffers, the same, just all of those requirements still have to be met, and it's evaluated against the total number of people that live on that parcel. Is that correct?
That's what was previously proposed, correct?
Okay, so I do just want to make sure that I understood properly and that everybody as well has that same understanding on what was being proposed, not necessarily ADU by right, but specifically they're forced to go through the process so that there would be a case-by-case evaluation on whether or not they get that approval. Okay, second, and obviously it's been withdrawn, but I think it's important. And second, the question came up around the stormwater fee. When the stormwater fee comes back, regardless, that would be its own separate package with its own separate definitions related to impervious surfaces and how calculations are done, because it's much more complex. My understanding, to what Commissioner Burrell had mentioned, my understanding was that this code change is really tied to something that comes up quite often in zoning, which is opposition a lot of times will bring up. That 70% threshold is, sure, it's met in the average of the total development, but each parcel is kind of taking advantage of that definition. So this was meant to bring that requirement down so that it was on each parcel as opposed to on the general development. And so this is specifically to when we're looking at those zoning definitions and whether or not developers are taking, I'll say, advantage of the code, how it's written today. So I think that was Commissioner Burrell's understanding.
That's correct, and I think it's important to point out, Chapter 134 is a zoning chapter. It deals with zoning, and when we talk about impervious surfaces there, we're really talking about it in the context of zoning, whereas Chapter 50 includes more of our stormwater standards, and those standards are not being proposed for amendments right now.
Awesome. And then the third, there was a comment about relaxing requirements on buffers, and my understanding is what's being proposed is it actually increases the requirement on those buffers.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Fourth, for the plumbing code, if you can just provide the background on what brought about the plumbing code changes.
Gladly. So the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District is a water planning district established by the Georgia General Assembly through the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District Act of 2001. Just as roads don't stop at city limits and county limits, neither does the water. The water that comes into Cobb County is coming from somewhere else, and whenever it leaves Cobb County, it goes somewhere else. So that's why the state, years and years ago, moved to a more regional approach for water planning. So the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District and all the other water planning districts throughout the state all have their own regional water plan. So it's not just the metro area, but there's districts throughout the state. They all have their own regional water plan. And that's something that as part of that district, we're to come into line with. Cobb County, and speaking with Judy Jones, our expert on this, Cobb County is a water sense community. The benefit of being a water sense community is if the county were to at some point borrow money, certain funds, certain loan funds for water infrastructure, that we would be eligible for a reduced interest rate. So it would be a little cheaper to borrow that money if we needed to down the road. And so one of the things that we also have is that there's the Environmental Protection Division does an audit of the county and what we're doing, and they do check for compliance with the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Plan, making sure that we're following the standards and the requirements of the Water Planning District, and potentially, if we are not, then that could potentially be a ding on our audit that may threaten may be a ding in our ability to maintain that water sense community designation. And this is for new construction, so as I understand it.
It's not retroactive.
Yeah, so, right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for providing that insight as well. And then the last piece, there were questions that came up around health spas in Chapter 78. So for instance, like the 5-year ban on the licenses, it's not necessarily, my understanding, it's not geared towards the employees. It's literally for the business owner when they are found that their business has been doing something nefarious.
Right, so there is in here, and I think it's important to note the difference between the licensee, the license holder, and someone who's a state licensed massage therapist. So when we say, for the purposes of this code, when we say the licensee, we're referring to the person, the owner who holds the Cobb County license for the establishment itself, versus the individual massage therapists who are licensed to provide those services. So the way that the code is written, that 5-year ban would be on someone who is seeking to obtain a license to have an establishment. That could be grounds for denial, but for someone who has a state license, and again, we don't issue the state licenses to the individual therapist, that comes from the Secretary of State's office. That's handled differently, so they would be subject to whatever the requirements of the state of Georgia are to obtain that massage therapist license for the practitioner.
And I have my page turned to a different page, so just in your opinion, do you feel as though the language is fine as written and there's no clarity needed to help differentiate between which licensee we're referring to?
I do, because there is, in the code, there is a definition of licensee that makes it clear that it speaks to the person who actually holds the license from the county.
Okay. And then I couldn't fully hear the question about the last piece with the grooming supplies, the hairbrushes. So if there's
right, so that was I made note of that question. So in 78-293, it speaks to. It says, at no time will any person reside or lodge either temporarily or permanently in the health spa establishment. That's something that has been sort of an indicator of those locations where there's perhaps some human trafficking taking place.
Yeah.
And then it goes on to say, evidence that premises are used for residential or lodging purposes may include, but is not limited to, and it goes on to list beds and mattresses, bedding, sleepwear, groceries, cookware, more than a change of clothes or personal grooming and hygiene items. It doesn't say you can't have a hairbrush in there, but if this says that these are things that would be evidence to the police department if they go into a facility and they see several examples of these, that there may be someone actually living there. So it doesn't say you cannot have a hairbrush, you cannot have a stick of deodorant, but if there's an abundance of those things, that would potentially raise a red flag to the police department that there could be someone who is habitating there, and that would be contrary to the code.
Okay, as long as we feel confident that that language wouldn't be used to say of one of those things that could be used to try to cause issues with another
Correct.
person.
Yes.
Okay. And then the last question was related to the HIPAA
Yes.
protections, if you would like to just.
And I made note about that also. Section 78-272 speaks to inspections, and it does specifically say, it says that the county employees would have the right to inspect the place of business and the records, but then it says very specifically, not protected by HIPAA. So any records that would be protected by HIPAA would not be subject to the county's investigation or inspection.
Thank you. And I know currently that's what's currently on the books, because that's a requirement that we've been hearing constantly for some of these health spas that have come in for the hearings, is that list of employees and then keeping the log of all the treatments and the patients or customers.
So, and the not regulated by HIPAA, that's actually new language that's being incorporated into what we already have. So that protection is actually being added very specifically in the code with this amendment.
Great, thank you. I think those were all of the different pieces that came up. Yeah, those are all the different pieces that I had. I don't have, I asked my questions about recommended language changes. I don't have any recommendations to offer up, and I didn't hear any from my fellow commissioners as well. So with that, it is time for us to call this to question. So I would like to motion, and we'll do this in bank because there's really no recommended changes coming from this board. So a motion to approve the recommended code amendments as presented.
Second.
And revised. Okay, great. as long as I have whichever language you want to use, that's the best. Okay. As revised.
Second.
Thank you. All right. Any discussion? Call to question? Motion carries 4-0.
I do have a question for Bill with the moratorium. Can we lift it tonight as a result of our vote?
Yes.
Or what would be the process? So
Yes.
at this point, the moratorium is lifted?
Correct.
At this point? Okay, thank you.
Correct.
For that clarification.
Health spas licenses, but
The health spa license, we had a moratorium that was scheduled to expire in January until we finalized the code amendment. And since that was voted on this evening, my question to the county attorney is whether or not that moratorium has been lifted. And the answer is yes.
If the board wants to make a formal motion for that to clear up, then that'd be fine. The moratorium's lifted upon the enactment of these code sections. That'd be fine.
okay.
Before we vote on
Well,
submitting my
Yeah, let me give you, everybody a chance to just give me, so really just taking a survey, because there really isn't an agenda item for it, but an agenda item isn't required for this, is what I'm hearing?
I believe the enactment of the code amendment itself would then
Is-
replace, yes, is sufficient, yes.
Okay, so then, no vote is needed, it seems? Okay, are we all, if there's disagreement on the board, then a vote could be taken, but I'm looking for some type of indication that the moratorium is lifted. Is there a question?
It was an agenda item to implement the moratorium. But till January, but this supersedes.
That would be my contention. There was a group that was put together in order to come up with code recommendations for the board. These are the code recommendations for it, so the moratorium would be lifted.
Okay, all right, so then we don't need to vote on this. That's how we're moving forward. And then I believe there were some statements that wanted to be submitted. I saw Commissioner Burrow submit hers, Commissioner Gambrell.
And if the clerk could record my statement as on file.
All right. And before we move into public comment, I had shared with everyone that the fourth presentation was being delayed till after the public hearing. So we're going to have that fourth presentation by Commissioner Burrow, and then we will go into our public comments. And I will say, anyone here from Music Studio Atlanta, please come up to the front. This is your time to shine.
I want the whole crew up. Come on, Sean. Come on, Jim. Paula. She's right here. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I apologize for giving our recipients here the wrong time. I'm so used to our night meetings being at 7. I think I texted them 7 p.m. But they're here now, and we're going to give a proclamation to the music studio. And before I read this, I just have to say, Cecilia and Sean here, the owners, are dear friends for 20-some years, and the relationship is through her mother-in-law that has passed away, Barbara Hickey, who was a dear, dear friend and a pillar in this community. And Jim is here, and the music studio crew and Paula. So here's the proclamation. Whereas the Music Studio Atlanta has been honored as a 2024 National School of the Year by Music Academy Success, the world's largest coaching organization for Music Academy owners. It was voted the winner by many hundreds of peers for its outstanding performance and dedication to music education. And whereas the Music Studio Atlanta has also been recognized as one of the Cobb Chamber's top 25 Small Business of the Year in both 2023 and 2024, with further distinction as one of only 3 music education organizations to receive the 2024 Best of Cobb Award, highlighting its continued excellence. And whereas established in 2011 as a division of the Courtney and Rowe In-Home Music Academy, the Music Studio Atlanta has grown each year. The Music Studio Atlanta East Cobb opened in 2022, continuing a legacy of high-quality music education. Whereas between its in-home and 2 studio locations, it currently serves more than 1,200 adults and children of all ages with a roster of 65 music instructors and is one of the largest music studios in the country. And whereas through nurturing talent and confidence, the Music Studio Atlanta fosters both musicianship and personal growth, providing a supportive environment that enriches the Metro Atlanta community and spreads the joy of music. Now, therefore, we, the Cobb County Board of Commissioners, extend our congratulations to the Music Studio Atlanta for its remarkable achievements and valuable contributions to the Cobb community. This is the 21st day of November, 2024. You're the best. And you want to say something about this school?
Well, I will introduce my husband of 30 years, Sean Rowe, who is also a Cobb County business owner with St. Angelo's Pizza, if you don't know that one. My lovely assistant, Blake Kozlowski, who has been my right hand for many years now. Kathleen Kinkella, marketing director extraordinaire, who does a fabulous job with our events. We have many events with 1,200 kids and adults, I can tell you. And then Steadfast, my father-in-law and soon-to-be mother-in-law, Jim Hickey and Paula. So happy to have you here. But thank you very much for this, Commissioner Burl. Oh, and my brother and sister-in-law, sorry, who's doing the filming over here, Taylor Courtney and Stacy Courtney. Thank you so much. But Commissioner Burl, you can, well, they're filming, so. Oh, no, they're not here. It's just been a real honor to be a Cobb County business for all these years, and the support that we get is just unmatched. We're thrilled to be here, and I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. So thank you.
And congratulations. Okay, we're going to get a picture.
Wonderful. And I will say thank you to everyone for your flexibility as we are maneuvering through a lot of changes in this meeting. Okay, well, of course. So now we're going to go into public comment, and County Attorney, do the honors.
Thank you, Commissioners. Excuse me, as the board provides the podium for public comment, it's appropriate to review the related meeting rules. Please state your name and if you are speaking on behalf of an organization. All comments should be made to the Commission as a body and addressed through the chair. Public comment is not a dialogue with the board, but an opportunity for speakers to provide their comments to the board. Comments should not be slanderous. The board encourages, regardless of the topic, for the audience to be respectful and courteous to all speakers. Everyone attending this meeting should give others the right to both listen and to be heard by treating each other with civility. Statements made during the public comments portion do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the board or the administration of Cobb County government. And as a reminder, there is a timer on the podium to keep track of your time. The first public speaker is Amy Barnes.
I really wish Chapter 78 had been thought out a little bit more, because what I didn't get to cover was that there is now a dress code with no specificity whatsoever for customers. So if I go into a massage therapist with my gym outfit on, is that appropriate? I don't like this at all, and I can absolutely see appellate litigation over the lack of definite and certainty regarding clothing. I don't like the fact that mandating someone, I don't like the mandate for scrubs, because it should not be up to the county what a particular business requires. Some of these businesses wear T-shirts with slogans on them and names on them. Okay, that would fall afoul of this regulation. We should not be in the business of regulating people's clothing. Have you not walked into a Hooters? I mean, come on. What's next? Is Hooters going to have to dress appropriately? It always starts small. That one small thing, no matter what you say up here, throw it in the garbage. Because when you say something, oh, it's not going to be used against people to have a hairbrush. When you declare something as prima facie at law, that is evidence. The police can go in and get a warrant based on that hairbrush or that deodorant. Or maybe the uncooked chicken that maybe the niece is going to come in and cook for everybody while they're working. It happens. I used to work at a dry cleaner. That's what we used to do. We used to go shop for uncooked groceries, and one of us would take an hour off and cook for all the rest of us. Well, that is declaring something as prima facie evidence. It allows a search warrant to issue forth based on that one thing. So it's really not true that they plan not to use something against someone. It's just wrong. Furthermore, I'm trying to obtain a permit for my back deck, and it is absolutely driving me crazy that I cannot get the what building inspections is going to use to inspect my back porch as planned. I don't know what they're going to require for bracings. I don't have any standards. I've tried 3 times to get that from building inspections. I can't get it, so I don't know what standards by which I'm going to have to plan the build out of my back porch when applying for my permit. So, gripe over. I really think Chapter 78 was not well thought out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And
The next public speaker is Jim Jess.
I was just going to say, if our community development director can maybe help with the building inspection question, that would be really great. Thanks.
I didn't hear that.
She's got you. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jim Jess. I'm Chairman Emeritus and current Treasurer of Franklin Roundtable. We're a Marietta-based education and advocacy organization. I led the efforts of Franklin Roundtable to oppose the mobility SPLOST, and then worked with a coalition of citizens to defeat MSPLOST on the ballot in November. I was many who addressed this board previously, encouraging you not to put the MSPLOST on the ballot. As I predicted, we the people rejected the MSPLOST. My admonitions, along with those of many others, were ignored by Madam Chairman and a majority of this board. Your consultants told us earlier this year that 60% of Cobb County voters would support MSPLOST. Well, what happened? More than 60% of the voters voted against your MSPLOST. The election proved that your consultants were wrong. Why on earth are you still listening to them? I would suggest you start listening to us. If you had listened to we the people in the first place, you would not have wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe even millions, if you count staff time, on this ill-conceived idea. How irresponsible. Y'all need to change direction. You need to listen to us. What we get from you is not listening at all. When we share ideas that are not yours, we don't get a very good reception. When we told you not to put this on the ballot, we were told, shut up and vote. This is no way to run a government. You need to listen to some of our ideas and put them into real, common sense solutions. I hope you will do this, because if you do not, you'll miss a great opportunity, and your leadership in this county will be a failure. I and others stand ready to work with you. What will you do?
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Betty Hayden. Matt Stegall.
Good evening. I am here to, my name is Matt Stegall. I am live in District 1, and I serve on the Transit Advisory Board, and so today I'm talking about the legislative agenda that I believe will be discussed here later tonight. Last year, it's my understanding that there was an item on the legislative agenda related to traffic calming, and I believe that this year it's no longer on that legislative agenda. Not traffic calming, sorry, speed, basically enabling speed cameras to be put into areas that aren't related to school zones. Street safety is one of the biggest issues that I think this county faces. There's a lot of vehicular related violence that occurs on a lot of our roads and streets. And the number one cause of the severity of those incidents and causing either serious injury or fatalities is the speed of vehicles. And as we continue to see other types of people, or all types of people use the road, including drivers, pedestrians, bicyclists, people waiting at the transit bus stop for their bus. Anytime an incident does happen where people are speeding, it increases that severity. And so enforcing that and not putting our police officers at risk in the enforcement of that is something that I believe, and using technology in order to enforce that is something that I believe is something that we should legislate to the state to allow that to happen. And I think that's one of the main things that we can do as a county to ensure that people do follow the law when they do drive, and we do it in a transparent way. That way, people see how much money was raised on it. There could be, there's the right way to do it, because I do know that sometimes with the red light cameras, there could be some issues as far as the appeal process or where that money's going. I think if we did that in a very limited way and in a transparent way and have that money either go to public safety or also safety elements on our roads, we would actually start saving lives on the roads. And I think that's very important, and one of the things that we should address and encourage the state to allow the county to be able to address that. One last thing is, over the course of the last couple of weeks, I've been to a couple of public house meetings regarding the McCollum Parkway as well as the Alatoona Creek Greenway. And when I was looking at some of those plans and studies, there's already a lot of gaps when it comes to sidewalks and bike infrastructure. And so as we do look to improve these areas, ensuring that infrastructure and the connecting infrastructure to allow bicyclists, pedestrians, all users of the road, safe infrastructure to be able to use the road, that should be a priority as we continue with these projects. So just wanted to, thank you.
Thank you.
Leslie Davis.
Leslie Davis. It's never too early to start talking about budgets. So first of all, I'd like to remind you before we go head into budget planning time, I think I speak for a lot of Cobb County residents when I say I did not receive a raise in 2024, and I don't anticipate a raise in 2025. I work for a very small company, and they cannot just tax their neighbors just because they want to give their employees more pay and benefits. I do not receive health insurance or retirement plan or even paid vacation or sick days from my job. These seem to be viewed as a right for government employees, though. Just remember, when you're working on the budget for next year, that you are taking money from people who do not receive any of these benefits to give more and more benefits to government employees. Next, I would like to speak about the sheriff's office coming to this board after the budget was set and asking for additional funding, pushing the county over budget. I'm demanding that this not happen again. If the sheriff needs more money, then he should sell all the horses, the useless horses he has, and free up the tens of thousands of dollars that he is spending every month to maintain those horses. You can also tell him to give up his security detail and reassign those officers to positions the county actually needs. Also, he can stop having his officers walk his dog while he's on duty. Third, and lastly, I would like to address the $84,000 that Connie Taylor wrongfully took from the county. She told this board in November of 2022 that she would return this money, but the Marietta Daily Journal was reporting as of August of 2024 that she has not returned that money to the county. My definition of stealing is taking something that does not belong to you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Catherine Stewart.
I'm okay. Missed the step. Thank you. Okay, and my anxiousness to get up here, I'm fine, thank you. I'm good, thank you.
You can take a moment.
I did not see that step. This is my first time being here, but I am fine.
So you could take a
Good
moment.
evening, Commissioners. My name is Catherine Stewart. I am a resident at the Legacy at Walton Heights, a senior community on Roberts Trail that is parallel to Barrett Parkway and adjacent to the entrance ramp onto I-75 North. There are 2 buildings located on the property with 180 units. I've lived at the Legacy for 6 years, 4 of those years in my current apartment adjacent to the I-575 North ramp. The challenge today is the quality of life for our senior community, particularly the residents that live on the northwest side of the buildings adjacent to the I-575 ramp as well as Barrett Parkway. The issue is the extreme noise of modified mufflers on cars, as well as the noise from motorcycles and trucks. We hear the noise in our apartments on the northwest and north side of the buildings. The entrance ramp has become a favorite place for some to flaunt their vehicles, revving of engines at the light on Barrett Parkway, the loud mufflers and backfiring of the cars, as well as there being contests of speed for some cars. This can pose a safety issue entering onto the highway. To create additional noise, the Town Center Mall Caffeine and Octane Car Show began in August of 2022 and continues on the first Sunday of each month. The car show is legitimate, and it draws thousands of car enthusiasts. However, It also draws those who put on their own car shows, who are not a part of the mall car show. I was told that the show has 2 off-duty Cobb officers to monitor the area. The monitoring has not worked. The noise has gotten increasingly worse. The noise begins around 6 a.m. and ends at approximately 1:30, and sometimes later. Again, we endure the loud car noise each day, beginning at times before 6 and continuing until 9 a.m., slacking off somewhat, and then again from 4 p.m. until 11 p.m. or later. On June 22nd, 2021, I emailed you, Commissioner Cupid, regarding the modified muffler noise. You requested that Major Ben Cohen, the commander of our precinct then—
Ma'am, sorry, your time has expired.
I'm sorry?
It's a 3-minute, we're well past considering. You have 3 minutes to speak, but there's certainly someone, get with Megan, she's waving her hand. If you meet with her, relay that issue, and we can follow up with you on that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Bruce Boyles. Bruce Boyles. Monica Delancey.
Good evening, Monica Delancey from the Mapleton Riverside community. I'm here to discuss about the rising of evictions that's taking place in Cobb County. There's 300 people each week on the dockets being evicted from Cobb County Magistrate Court, and that's appalling. People are calling for resources, and they've called every resource that's given from the county, from your findhealth.org, and they're stating that there's either no funds, a wait list, or they're waiting until the beginning of the year to start processing. So why can't there be a moratorium on evictions if this is the case? Then also, we've had calls from senior citizens saying that they're paying $1,500 a month in rent. That's absurd. That's absurd. What are you going to do about that? Because senior citizens should not be paying $1,500 a month in rent on fixed incomes. In addition, we want to discuss about how some of these rapid rehousing funds, these temporary rental assistance funds are being used to enable the raggedy run-down apartments. Let me tell you about that. Because those places know that nobody will rent for them if they was not receiving some type of move-in assistance. And that's what's causing the evictions. Because once they collect the money, sometimes they're getting about $6,000. Once they collect the money, and each month it runs out, then that's what they're going to do. They're going to evict people. And some of these apartment complexes, they're all listed in Cobb County. These apartment complexes have people that's living in their units with broken windows, broken sliding doors, busted out, cracked up paint. In addition, there's buildings that Commissioner Sheffield has helped with that's been told that people shouldn't be living there. They were supposed to help them move out, but apparently because they had nowhere to go to, they snuck back in. And so therefore, there needs to be, you need to go investigate these corporate landlords, because these slumlords get more respect than your actual residents that live in the area. So I'm gonna need for you guys to step it up, because affordable housing should mean housing for people who live in ragged apartments. If you expect the best in Cobb County, I want you to go and investigate these apartments on Riverside Parkway, start there. I want you to investigate apartments on Mapleton Parkway, investigate apartments on Franklin Road, and I want you to really find out and get to the bottom of it, because this is not the best you can do for families. This is not the best you can do for kids, to allow people to be living like that. And again, I want to also reiterate that if you have a task force that's supposed to be discussing about the housing forecast, they need to be making a monthly report at least one time a month, come here and state, what are you doing about the housing crisis in Cobb County? It should be a report. Just like the other departments give reports, there should be a housing department giving reports as well. Again, my name is Monica Delancey. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Hill Wright.
Hill Wright. The codes in place serve to protect our neighborhoods, and it's my hope that the board has recognized the importance of involving citizens in the early stages of crafting and amending these codes. Chair and board members should refrain from shaming citizens who are advocating for the preservation of their protections. Attempts by commissioners to misinterpret and twist our words only undermine the voices of the people they represent. We are already experiencing significant issues with the current codes, and stripping away protections would exacerbate these problems, turning our neighborhoods into unlivable environments. While there is a pressing call for affordable housing, we must address the crucial question: what defines affordable? What is the dollar amount? When residents oppose developments that threaten their neighborhoods, they're often unfairly labeled as being against affordable housing. Would building $600,000, $800,000 new homes truly make housing affordable? There are already provisions that allow families to accommodate additional family members through the construction of accessory structures. However, adding a $1,500 a month rental apartment in the backyard, will that generally solve the affordability issue? We must also acknowledge that there are specific interest groups lobbying for removal of neighborhood protections, and some groups asking taxpayers who are already facing financial challenges to cover rising rent costs. Let's work together to find a balanced approach that considers the needs of both individual residents and the broader community, not just ram beliefs down our throats in the name of solving a problem.
Thank you.
That's the last public speaker.
Okay. Well, give me a moment. We will now move to the next part of our meeting agenda, which is the consent agenda. And commissioners, before we get there, there's a motion to add a non-agenda item to consent. And so I would like to, this is related to authorizing the settlement of workers' compensation claim on behalf of Kenneth Stantz. And let's see, I don't have any edits to it, so that's the only non-agenda item we need to add. So I will motion to add that is there? I thought I was I'm adding that later. Yeah, okay, yeah, later. So I'm setting, motion to add this non-agenda item related to the workers' compensation claim to the consent. Thank you. Discussion? Call to question. And the motion passes 4-0 with Chairwoman Cupid absent. Thank you. Okay, and now we are going to approve the consent agenda. So motion to approve the consent agenda as revised. Discussion. Call to question. Motion carries 4-0 with Chairwoman Cupid absent. And that brings us to the regular agenda, where we also, commissioners, have a non-agenda item to add. We're doing it now. We're doing it now. Yeah. Yes. I have the new script. Yes. So going into this, this is an agenda item that will be presented by Dr. McMorris for recommended addition, which we will have to vote for a 4/5 vote to add that to the agenda once she's presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Good evening. I'm Dr. Jackie McMorris. It is my pleasure to ask you to accept the recommendation of Mr. Keith Sherman to be appointed as our new Director of Library Services within our library system. Mr. Sherman's 20-plus career and experience certainly is an asset to the Cobb County library system. Just a little bit of background about Mr. Sherman. Keith, if I may call him Keith. Keith, come on up, you and your wife, while we make this recommendation. He has had a distinguished career. He went to Kent State, and he started his library stint in 2003. He has served as the Youth Services Librarian for the Lee County Public Library in Cape Coral, Florida, before joining the Gwinnett County Library System. Keith has had experience as well in renovations, big projects, which is also part of our library system. Keith was chosen among several distinguished candidates, but it is with great pleasure, Commissioners, that I ask you to accept my nomination to appoint Mr. Sherman as our new library director.
Okay, and I will motion for us to do that approval, but just want to correct what I had stated earlier. We will do the non-agenda item next, but motion to approve the nomination. Second. Discussion?
Everybody second.
Everybody second. Discussion? Call to question? Motion carries 4-0.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Commissioners. Keith, would you like to say a word?
Sure. So I'd just like to say the one thing that really sold me on working with Cobb County was the people I've met and had discussions with about this position, this opportunity. From our commissioners to, of course, Dr. McMorris, Dr. Gibson, all of our library staff have been so accepting. And really, you all are excellent. You're Library of the Year in 2023.
Yes.
This we know, and your staff reflect that excellence. So my goal for you all is to accelerate that level of excellence from local and state to national recognition. And that is what I am duty-bound to do for you all as your next director. Thank you.
I accept. Thank you. Okay, so now to present the non-agenda item so that we may vote on
Yes.
adding it to the agenda.
Yes. So this is bittersweet. As we know, we have had a lot of time to have a wonderful librarian in Helen Poirier. So it's bittersweet tonight, sweet in that Keith has accepted the board's appointment, and a little sad that we're losing Helen. So tonight, I stand before you to ask this board to rename the Cobb Library Bookmobile to the Helen Poirier Cobb Library Bookmobile in recognition of her dedicated service to the library patrons and citizens of Cobb County during her distinguished career here. Most of you know Helen. She's been a dedicated Cobb Library System employee since 2006, when she served as the South Cobb Regional Library Manager, overseeing 5 libraries. In 2008, she was promoted to the Division Director branch services, overseeing the operation of the county's 15 libraries. Helen was promoted to the Director of the Cobb County Library System in 2009 as the first African American to hold this position. Under her distinguished leadership, the Cobb Public Library System was named the 2023 Library of the Year by the Georgia Public Library Service. So after 18 years of service, she will be retiring in just a few days, this December 2024. A little bit about the Bookmobile. The mission of the Cobb Library Bookmobile is to deliver library materials and services in a non-threatening and non-judgmental environment to the residents of all ages who, for whatever reason, are not served or perhaps underserved by the traditional libraries due to geographical, physical, or other barriers. When Helen decided to bring the Bookmobile to Cobb, it was innovative, and I don't know if any other library system at the time had one. But because of her innovation and her love for books and her desire to make sure that everyone had an opportunity to have access to books, she brought the Bookmobile to Cobb. So Helen Poirier, if you would come up, please. And I think her family is here. Anyone who would celebrate with Helen, please come up.
Okay, wait, Dr. McMorris, we have to vote. We have to vote. Okay. Okay, so
We're all excited about Helen.
Motion
So
to
it is.
approve.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. McMorris's recommendation for renaming the Bookmobile to the Helen Poirier Bookmobile. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. Call to question. Call to question. Oh, we have to add it.
Yes.
Okay. Motion to.
It's all of the excitement. It's
It
really
is.
okay.
It is. It is.
It's
We're trying to
okay.
do this in a smooth
It's
way.
okay.
Motion to add the non-agenda item is presented to the regular agenda.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Call to question. Motion carries 4-0 with Chairwoman Cupid absent. And now, motion to approve the new agenda item related to the renaming of the Bookmobile. That is my motion.
It's okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Call to question.
As soon as we.
Great.
This is
4-0. It's okay. 4-0. Motion carries.
Okay, here we go. Everybody over there. 3. Okay, hang on. All right, I'm going to get the new director in a shot too. So. All right, thank you. Here we go. Part 2. All right, hang on. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to give a couple of moments for things to quiet down from all the excitement. More excitement right around the corner. Was that more excitement?
Jump in, baby.
Do which one? To the legislature. Yeah. All right. The room is still clearing. All right. Okay, I think we've hit a good equilibrium. So, Deputy County Manager, got the next item up for you.
Good evening, Commissioners and Madam County Manager. I'm joined tonight by Mr. Dan Baskerville, who's our state lobbyist with Denton's. He's our ace reliever out of the bullpen, just in case there's some questions that I might not know. Dan knows everything. So our agenda item tonight is to actually present the 2025 legislative agenda for the board's consideration. The agenda is compiled by individual meetings that I have with each one of the commissioners. We try to find issues that are commonalities with ACCG most of the time. And then we look for items that we can gather a consensus on. And that's what makes it to our legislative agenda. So if you'd like, I'll run through each one of the items very quickly, and then we can have a discussion about those items. The first item on the agenda is transportation. Our local DOT gets a lot of their funds from the Local Maintenance and Improvement Grant, better known as LMIG, from the state. We receive, or counties receives about 10% of the gas tax that the state receives. And there have been efforts to try to drop it lower. We would like for the state to go up, but we would oppose any efforts to reduce that amount. Under the general government, the creation of new cities, the guidelines by which that happens is very lax, might not be the right word, but it's not tight enough, we feel like. So we're encouraging the state legislature to make that process a little bit more involved by polling residents and actually, 10% of the registered voters in the proposed city's jurisdiction. Home rule as far as design standards, short-term rentals, and build-to-rent subdivisions. Over the last couple of years, there's been a couple of bills dropped trying to preempt local codes and force counties and cities to take care of design standards, and we're not in favor of that. Annexation should be solely done to satisfy services for those residents not offered by the county. They require that the economic and fiscal impacts be assessed and reported, so we're asking the state to tighten up that process. On de-annexation, we're requesting that the state make that a property owner's rights. Currently, a property owner has to have the city's approval before they can ask to de-annex. We're asking the state legislature to not make the residents require city approval. On the evictions process, we're asking that, excuse me, the state push for increased coordination efforts between tenants and landlords prior to residents' possessions being placed on the street. Housing affordability and accessibility. As Commissioner Burrow and I discussed today, it's very hard until you actually have a definition of what affordable housing is, but we are requesting that the state give counties and cities the opportunity to make efforts toward providing housing affordability. Public works bidding. 25 years ago, the state enacted a $100,000 threshold for public works projects that must be bid out. A $100,000 project back in 1995 is a $250,000 project now. What we're seeing is a lot of contractors will not even waste their time putting bids together for a $100,000 project. So we're asking the state to increase that to 250. That has already been approved one time by the legislature, but the governor vetoed it because the state was not included in the legislation. So we're going back this time with the state included. Of course, continued support for Dobbins Air Reserve Base. That is a pillar of our community. Then school growth. I don't know if a lot of our residents know, but whenever a school is constructed or renovated, the county is responsible for all of the road work, sidewalks, and all of the infrastructure out on the road. We're asking that the state allow East Blast to be able to cover some of those costs as well. Currently, East Blast can only be used for the bricks and mortar on their property. Mental health. We always support mental health reform. We support first responders. Just last year, the legislature passed a PTSD bill, PTSD insurance bill for first responders, but we always want to support our first responders. And then we have two pieces of local legislation which we will be requesting. One on the public hearing requirement. Currently in Cobb County, anytime the county is going to expend $100,000, excuse me a minute. I think I can get a little bit done now. Anytime the county is going to expend $100,000 on a consultant, we have to conduct a public hearing. We are the only county in the state of Georgia that has to do that. We're asking that the legislature drop that requirement because of the time it delays our projects in the public works sector. And then the second item of local legislation is under our enabling legislation, under the term of commissioners. We're asking for this sentence to be included in our enabling legislation. And it's at the end of the subsection which talks about commissioners living inside their district. However, in the event a sitting district commissioner is drawn out of their district by the Georgia General Assembly through the reapportionment process, the sitting district commissioner will be allowed to serve the remainder of their duly elected term of office. And that is a very quick synopsis of the legislative agenda. And Dan and I can answer any questions you may have. If there are issues that you would like to add to or delete, we're all ears.
We can start off with just questions, and then we can go into a motion afterwards. So, Commissioner Gambrill.
I have no questions. I would just like to ask my fellow board members, given the information that we've recently received on HB 581, that we add it to our agenda for consideration in our discussion on December 5th.
And the question I would ask, in what way do we want to add it on there? Because there are a lot of pieces to that bill.
There are a lot of pieces to that bill, and I'm not sure how much detail to go into, but essentially, we need to make sure that the legislators work with not only the county, but also the municipalities in respecting the decisions they make as to either opting in or opting out of HB 581.
Okay, so if I'm hearing correctly, you would like to add a component here related to HB 581 to ask the state to have intentional collaboration with the county in implementing that bill. Okay.
If I could just for a second, ACCG is proposing a HB 581 cleanup item this year. What Commissioner Gamble was talking about is absolutely something we need to be talking about. The items that they will be presenting is the acreage requirement, a position on if one spouse passes away, the credit goes to the surviving spouse. And what was the third one?
If the estimated rollback rate be certified by the tax assessor and the tax commissioner.
Right. So those three items will be pushed anyway, but I totally agree with Commissioner Gamble. This is going to be a culture shock to a lot of people this year.
Yes, yes. And I just want to make sure we know what we would actually write on here.
Okay.
In language.
I just have a follow-up question for Commissioner Gamble. When you said to respect the decision of the municipality, a few days ago when we attended the ACCG meeting, it was shared that even if the municipalities opted out, that the legislatures can basically opt them back in. Is that what you're making reference to? Okay.
Is there recommended language that we should have in our agenda related to that?
Recommend that we add discussion with House Bill 581 as we go through the process, and clarification on if we opt out or
Right.
what.
Okay.
Well, this will
And-
definitely be one of the major topics during our meeting with the legislators on December 5th.
Yeah.
So we will give us all an opportunity to make sure they understand our position on that.
And here's the reason why I'm asking is we can add this to our agenda for a fifth vote based upon the recommendation, but I was offering up language for a motion to add, because we can't just say HB 581, so.
Could you do something
Or
along the
can we?
lines of approve, because we can craft that language and get approval by each one of the sitting full board members, if you can just put that in the motion.
So I'm going to ask
Commissioner
Bill.
Gamble.
Well, I actually thought Commissioner Gambrell actually made a motion, which she said. It sounded perfectly appropriate if it covered the topic that you wanted to.
So did the clerk, did what we say cover enough for Jimmy to add? And then my question then would be to the board, is it broad enough to cover the depth of the issues that is involved with 581? I thought I kind of made it open enough to, because there's many different issues.
I just heard to add HB 581. I didn't hear the context around it, so that's why I don't know what, but that's fine.
How,
Okay, okay. Go ahead. Was it a motion?
So I guess when you passed it to me, it was for discussion. And in my discussion, I said I would like to add HB 581. I have not made a formal motion because we are currently in discussion. So I don't know if we want to let the other commissioners weigh in on the agenda before we make a formal motion, or are we ready to make a motion?
We can do that. I was not necessarily making a motion to pass this. I was talking about to add your recommendation, but that's fine. We can keep a log of the different recommendations. Okay. Are there any others? All right. Commissioner Burrow.
okay. I do have some questions.
Okay.
For on the second page or back page, evictions process, how are we going to enforce that if the magistrate court hears the evictions and is over that area, and the sheriff's office actually does the eviction? How are we going to enforce that, or why are we involved here?
In the state's role, in the overseer of the process, they can establish the process by which the landlord talks with the tenant to coordinate the eviction process. So that's what we were thinking, if the state could enter in that process, make it a requirement that the landlords coordinate it better with the tenants before just putting their stuff out on the street.
Okay, so we're asking the legislature to
Correct.
adopt that.
Yes, ma'am.
But is there going to be any mandates to the county to fund any of that? Or
Well,
will it still be with the sheriff and the?
There really wouldn't be anything for us to pay for if they asked the tenant to coordinate with the landlord and vice versa. So
Okay.
there really wouldn't be a cost to the county on that.
Okay. And then right under that, landlord/inspections, you know, a few years ago, Commissioner Sheffield brought forward a code to have all apartments, multifamily in Cobb, which is rental property, inspected. And that process has started, it's my understanding. But this would include individual homes and landlords. So
If they're being
my
rented.
question is a legal question. Under privacy laws, are we allowed to do that? Bill? I'm asking the attorneys.
Well, it would depend on what the statute ultimately says. All of this is basically the paper's initiatives. And this is just as an initiative that there be inspections done. I mean, however the bill was drafted by the legislature would address the legality of it and the way that it was implemented, and if there was, whatever the procedures would be. You wouldn't, you know, it'd be part of the regulation process, you'd be able to enter. Obviously, you just wouldn't be able to enter if it wasn't part of a regular regulation process of that. But that would be up to the bill and how it was drafted. This is just an initiative that you're presenting.
Right, but with this would come enforcement. So right now, if our code enforcement is inspecting apartments or multifamily rentals, then are we asking them to have, they're gonna pass it down to us. If it's if it's addressed at the state, it's gonna get passed down to us, and our code enforcement is gonna have to go into people's homes to inspect rental properties. How are we gonna do that? It's not gonna be enforced. We don't have enough officers to do all that. I'm just concerned that going into someone's private home that they rent out is an invasion of their property, their privacy laws. I'm asking if it's legal that we could do that. I mean, we already have something in place with multifamily, and I would leave it at that, because I don't know how it's going to get enforced. And who's going to cover that? Our code enforcement, or who's going to inspect these homes?
So I think the county attorney addressed a component, which was the legislature depends on how they read that and interpret that, but I think Commissioner Gambrill has a piggyback question or comment.
No, I have a piggyback comment, and Mr. Stegall brought it up in his comments. Last year in our legislative agenda, we had on there for them to consider the speed cameras to help with traffic enforcement. It was a suggestion that we put on there, and it was pretty much shot down and nothing happened on it. So my understanding, you know, we have this on here, but that doesn't mean the legislators will take any action on it. Just like they didn't take any action on the speed cameras that we had suggested last year.
I understand.
So I understand.
You have to be careful what you ask for, because when it comes down to being, if it passes, we're going to be responsible for code enforcement having to do it, because they're doing it for the apartments now. It's not, the state ain't giving us money to do that.
And Commissioner
So
Sheffield.
I just think that it could be an invasion of privacy to go into someone's rental home and inspect. The multifamily's commercial, and I get that. And code enforcement can do that. I'm just asking legally, and I'm not getting an answer. So I'll just say that right there, since it's not clear to me, that I wouldn't support that one section.
Got it.
And that'll work.
So,
Commissioner
just for
Sheffield.
clarification, Jimmy, it reads that Cobb County supports legislation that requires rental properties, et cetera, but does this put Cobb on the hook for anything, or is this more of us showing our support to perhaps strengthen the landlord-tenant laws, which are state laws?
Well, it all depends on what the state legislature did with it. As Mr. Rowland said, if they saw this and said, by golly, we're going to do this, all of a sudden now we're going to do all private home rentals or rental units that are homes. But they would have to decide in developing the legislation who would be responsible. Commissioner Burrow has a point, it would probably be code enforcement. But you have people renting homes just like you have people renting apartments. So it would probably be code enforcement.
Okay.
If the legislature decided to do it that way.
Right.
Is this not covered in State Rep Sharon Cooper's bill that she passed, landlord-tenant, where they can't retaliate and other things
Safe Home
for rental?
Act. The Safe Home Act that passed this year is what you're referring to?
She passed that a couple years, 3 years.
That was
now.
this
Oh, the retaliation you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
I don't know if it's covered under that. Okay, that's all.
Okay, and I think Commissioner Gambrell had another comment. Okay, I'll say it then, because I did have just a couple of comments for those that are listening to this. Honestly, I read any of these recommendations as potentially coming back to, the county's jurisdiction. It just depends on how the state legislature wants to write its particular bill. Anything we ask for and how it's being interpreted, but at least it'd be statewide.
Right.
All right, Commissioner Sheffield.
Yeah, just on the term of the commissioner, Jimmy, and we talked about particularly the last sentence, the reapportionment process, and my question to you and Brian Johnson several months ago was, is that the only process in which a sitting commissioner can be drawn out of their district? And I just wanted confirmation on that.
Yes, ma'am.
That is the only way through the reapportionment, okay.
By the state legislature.
Yeah, I get that, but I
Not
just
us.
wanted a final answer from you. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. So the only other thing, comment I was going to make is there was a question that came up in general as well around traffic calming. I know it was specific to the speed cameras, but I know that there had been some really good work when we had the traffic calming added as discussion with the state legislature with DOT, and so there are a lot of changes that were passed this year as well to accommodate some of those requests, and so I'm not deaf ears, at least from an operational standpoint, and did just want to highlight that it wouldn't need to be repeated on this one. I didn't have any recommendations for this list. I agree with the 581, which will come out in a vote, so. I did not hear any recommendations except for the one related to HB 581, which the clerk already has a note for how that motion could be interpreted, so we will keep it general in the motion that's made for how we want to amend this, and then we'll vote on the legislative agenda item as amended. So lead us off with your motion, and I'll second. Or not.
No, I mean, if the clerk's recorded it, they could just read it back in. Why don't you just read it back in?
Okay.
Oh, you didn't write it down. You're saying it was
Same motion to
recorded.
add the general, yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item number 18 with the addition of language previously recorded to add HB 581 to the Cobb legislative discussion scheduled for December 5th, 2024.
Perfect, and second. Discussion. Go ahead.
Yes, and just that I oppose the
one
section on,
Noted. Any other comments, discussion? Okay, call to question. Motion carries 4-0 with Chairwoman Cupid absent.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You're off the hook. Transportation.
Good evening, Commissioners. County Manager DOT has 4 items for your consideration this evening. Our first item is to recommend the Board of Commissioners approve project number B2743, task order number 2 to the 2022 Master Task Order Contract with Barge Design Solutions Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $139,332 for engineering design of East Callaway Road sidewalk. Authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Sheffield.
So moved.
Discussion? Call to question? Motion carries 4-0 with Chairman Cupid absent.
Thank you. Our next item is to recommend the Board of Commissioners approve an indemnification and hold harmless agreement with the Georgia Department of Transportation required to obtain an encroachment permit for renovation of Cobb Parkway Pedestrian Bridge, project number B2443, and authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
So moved. Second. Discussion? Call to question? Motion carries 4-0 with Chairwoman Cupid absent.
Thank you. Our next item is to recommend the Board of Commissioners approve a contract with Exceller Construction LLC in an amount not to exceed $267,500 for construction of Terrell Mill Road Deceleration Lane Phase 1, project number TR540. Authorize a corresponding budget transaction and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
So grateful for this one. So moved.
Second and ditto, 3 years in the making. It's fine.
Discussion? Call to question? Motion carries 4-0 with Chairwoman Cupid absent.
Thank you. And our final item this evening is to recommend the Board of Commissioners approve supplemental agreement number 1 to the consultant services agreement with Pond and Company in an amount not to exceed $1,226,803.53 for engineering design of Bells Ferry Road over Noonday Creek, Cobb County project number B2101. Authorize a corresponding budget transaction and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
So moved. Second. Discussion? Call to question? Motion carries 4-0 with Chairwoman Cupid absent.
Thank you.
Good evening, Vice Chairwoman, Commissioners, Madam County Manager. Parks has 3 items for consideration this evening. Our first item is for the Board of Commissioners to approve a purchase agreement with Crown Retail Services Incorporated to furnish and install a new picnic shelter and pavilion at Wild Horse Creek Park under the 2022 Park Splash program. The shelter pavilion would be situated next to the existing athletic football field for patrons to use as a picnic space as well as a relief area from the weather. We ask the Board of Commissioners to approve a purchase agreement with Crown Retail Services to furnish and install a new picnic shelter pavilion in an amount not to exceed $62,159.99. Authorize corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the Director of Procurement Services to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Sheffield.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call to question? Motion carries 4-0 with Chairwoman Cupid absent.
Thank you. Our second item is to approve a contract with Bartow Paving Company Incorporated for materials and labor to construct a new access road and parking improvements at Green Meadows Preserve, a Parks Capital Improvement project. This project will address an identified need for improved and safer access to the swing time facility and additional parking at Green Meadows Preserve. We ask the Board of Commissioners to approve a contract with Bartow Paving Company Incorporated for materials and labor to construct the new access road and parking improvements at Green Meadows in an amount not to exceed $705,400.43. Authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Gambrill. So moved. Second. Discussion? Call to question? Motion carries 4-0. Chairwoman Cupid absent.
Thank you. Our final item is to approve a 2-part design-build contract with the MAP Group LLC for the design and construction of improvements at Fair Oaks Park and the Booth Road property under state and local fiscal recovery funds as a component of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. This project is for improvements to Fair Oaks Park, including accessibility, synthetic turf conversion, court improvements, and general renovations. The property at Booth Road will be improved and a parking area will be constructed along with the county's first cricket pitch. Once design has been finalized, we will bring back a second agenda item specifying the total contract amount, including construction costs. We ask the Board of Commissioners to approve a two-part design-build contract with the MAP Group LLC for the design and construction of improvements at Fair Oaks and Booth Road property in an amount not to exceed $604,306. Authorize a corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Fantastic. So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Michael, is that part of is the community center at Fair Oaks part of that, or is it just the park?
It's just a park. So
Okay.
we've got the recreation center, but we're doing nothing at the recreation center. It's mostly work near the tennis center area and the athletic fields.
Okay.
Call to question. Motion carries 4-0 with Chairwoman Cupid absent.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes this part of the public comment. Oh.
There are no speakers.
Okay. I was like, did I do something wrong? So no public comment. Going into appointments. First up, Commissioner Sheffield.
This is a motion, correct, Bill? Okay, 26. I make a motion to approve the reappointment of Carolyn Turner to the Board of Tax Assessors.
Second.
Discussion? Call to question. Motion carries 4-0 with Chairman Cupid absent. Congratulations on the reappointment. And the next one, this is a motion to approve the reappointment of Roger Phelps to the Board of Tax Assessors.
Second.
Discussion?
And he's here.
Back right there. Wave for us. Thank you for being here, Roger. Call to question. Motion carries 4-0 with Chairwoman Cupid absent. Congratulations on your reappointment. And we finished going into the public address now, and we will go down the line. I'll go last.
It's the season for Christmas trees. Calvary Children's Home Campus Director Brian Busby is hosting the 19th Annual Christmas Tree Sale. To purchase a tree or donate one to a family in need, you can contact Brian Busby at 404-731-1500 for more information or pricing. The sale will be held at the Children's Home Campus located at 1430 Lost Mountain Road in Powder Springs. Pre-Thanksgiving lot hours, which is November 24th through the 27th, are with Sunday, November 24th from 1 to 8 p.m., and then Monday through Wednesday from 12 to 8 p.m. Lastly, happy Thanksgiving. Cobb County government offices will be closed on Thursday, November 28th and Friday, November 29th, in observance of the Thanksgiving holiday. Wishing you a safe and healthy feast.
Thank you. Commissioner Burrow.
Okay, a week ago, we cut the ribbon at the grand reopening of Gritter's Library. And it is a beautiful and resourceful library. So, you can see from the pictures here all the excitement. It's not just a library, though. There's a community center in the bottom floor. Thank you, Michael Brantley. There is Cobb Works will have an office there and a training center for job placement and help for employment. So if you haven't been there already, you need to go visit the new Gritters, the new and improved Gritters. It's great. And that was a 2016 SPLOS project. Another 2016 SPLOS project, no, I'm sorry, this is a 2022 SPLOS project, is Fire Station 12. The existing Fire Station 12 on Brackett Road has outgrown its capacity. It's a 2-bay. So this will be a new Fire Station 12 across from the Kroger on Canton Road, and a great part of the community that it will service. So we just took some pictures to let you know it's coming soon. This Christmas, or December 14th, is National Wreaths Across America Day, and the Marietta Cemetery has 18,000 of our veterans who are buried there. And to honor them, we're hoping to get a wreath on every single grave. So the Cobb Veterans Memorial Foundation is celebrating, but also will receive part of the donation if you buy a wreath. So there's flyers in the very back table with a QR code and to donate, and we would just like to honor all of our veterans that paid the ultimate price. And last but not least, happy Thanksgiving. Time for eating and watching football and spending time with family and friends. God bless you all.
Awesome. Commissioner Sheffield.
Thank you. District 4 news and updates. Get ready to celebrate the holiday season's warmth, light, and community spirit. I invite you to join me for an unforgettable evening at the Mabel House Complex's Holiday Extravaganza. Mabel House Light the Nights this Saturday, November 23rd from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. at 5239 Floyd Road in Mableton. The Mabel House Historic Home and Amphitheater will be transformed into a winter wonderland. You'll experience the grand lighting of the holiday tree along with a special visit from Santa himself. The Tree Jubilee continues from November 24th through December 12th with a beautiful gallery display of trees and wreaths created by local artists, schools, and community groups, and myself. These lovely creations are available for purchase and will be delivered from December 9th to December 11th, so come be a part of this magical season and let's light up the night together. This holiday season, I couldn't be more excited to team up with Must Ministries for our inaugural Must Have Holiday Cheer Drive. Together, we're bringing joy and support to families in South Cobb. Mark your calendar for 9 a.m. on Saturday, December 14th, and join us at the South Cobb Recreation Center located at 875 Six Flags Drive in Austell. We'll distribute food and toys to make the holiday a little brighter. You can make a difference by donating toys at one of our convenient collection spots: the David Hankerson Building, South Cobb Recreation Center, the South Cobb Regional Library, Freeman Pool Senior Center, or the Mabel House Arts Center by 5 p.m. on December 9th. Let's spread some holiday cheer together. And when you drop off your donation, be sure to mention the must-have holiday cheer drive, and you can win a $100 gift card from Santa. And lastly, I'd like to take a moment to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving. I hope your holiday is filled with joy, gratitude, and quality time with loved ones. As mentioned earlier, Cobb County offices will be closed on Thursday, November 28th and Friday, November 29th, so our team can also enjoy the holiday with their families. Have a safe and wonderful Thanksgiving.
Fantastic. All right, go forward from the office. So in case you didn't hear it enough, happy Thanksgiving. I'm grateful for the vibrant community we have here in Cobb, and I hope you all have a warm, joyful holiday with family, friends, and plenty of good food. I know I will. New Orleans food is on the menu. Stay safe, and let's continue to build a stronger, even more thankful community. Cobb County offices will be closed from November 28th through 29th, just to double click on that for you to observe Thanksgiving. Okay, Master Planning Community Survey. Our fall 2024 capstone interns are working hard on several important projects all throughout Cobb. Earlier this week, our interns hosted a community engagement session focused on land use and master planning in District 2. It was an engaging event with great feedback from the D2 community. However, the interns still need some more insight, some more input for the master plans in the area. So scan the QR code and take the master planning survey and give your thoughts about the future plans that you have. What do you think Cobb County should look like? Visit our website to learn more about the fall capstone internship as well. And from the community, Christmas movie matinee. Visit Vining's Library for a heartwarming Christmas classic. A Christmas Carol is the film adaptation of Charles Dickens' beloved holiday classic. The 1951 British film is widely recognized as a definitive screen version of the timeless tale of a lonely miser who finds out what the magic of Christmas is really about. Don't forget to stop by the library for a beloved Christmas tradition this holiday season. This movie will be shown at 1 p.m. on Saturday, December 7th in the program room. And just as a carryover from last updates, give thanks by helping those in need. The Thanks for Giving food drive is collecting donations to feed 1,000 Cobb families for the entire week of Thanksgiving. The drive is organized by the Center for Family Resources, which serves Cobb families experiencing homelessness or those in danger of becoming homeless. Community members are asked to participate by becoming event sponsors, hosting a Thanks for Giving food drive, or making a charitable donation. Visit thecrf.org to learn how you can get involved. And that concludes all of my announcements. So thank you all so much for tuning in, and that adjourns our meeting.